Part 1. The Life That Looks Stable. I believed our marriage was strong because nothing was falling apart in obvious ways. No shouting matches that spilled into the hallway. No slammed doors that made the neighbors listen. Just routine. Predictable, quiet, almost respectable. Coffee in the morning, keys placed in the same bowl, her jacket always hanging where it belonged. I told myself this was adulthood. This was what commitment looked like once the excitement settled. Passion fades, people say. Stability remains. I clung to that idea because it felt safe. What I didn't see was how silence slowly replaced curiosity, how we stopped asking each other real questions, how was your day turned into a formality instead of an invitation. I thought peace meant love. I didn't yet understand that peace can also mean emotional absence. Part 2. How routine replaced intimacy. We became efficient. Efficient at sharing space, managing schedules, splitting responsibilities. We could run a household without speaking more than a few sentences a day. Somewhere along the way, intimacy became optional. Touch became brief, almost polite. Conversations became summaries instead of stories. I told myself this was normal, that wanting more meant being ungrateful. I swallowed that thought every time something inside me felt hollow. Looking back, I see how carefully I trained myself not to notice the emptiness. Love doesn't vanish overnight. It thins out slowly, like air leaking from a room you keep insisting is full. Part 3. The Subtle Shift. She started coming home later, not suddenly, casually, as if it had always been this way and I just hadn't noticed before. She stopped venting about work, stopped needing my reassurance. I mistook her emotional distance for independence. I thought I was doing the mature thing by giving her space. What I didn't realize was that her emotional life hadn't disappeared. It had simply moved somewhere I wasn't invited. And I was still standing at the door, assuming I was inside. Part 4. The Object That Didn't Belong. The coat appeared on an ordinary evening. No drama, no announcement. Just there. Heavy, masculine. Definitely not mine. It rested on a chair like it belonged in our home. I picked it up and smelled someone else's presence. Unfamiliar, confident, wrong. My mind rushed to protect me. Co-worker, mistake, temporary. I placed it back carefully as if treating it gently could keep my reality intact. She hadn't mentioned it. That omission felt louder than any confession. Part 5. A word that changed everything. When I finally asked whose coat it was, she answered without looking at me. A colleague's. Her voice was steady. Later, as if it meant nothing, she said, "I'll return it tomorrow." Return. That word stayed with me. You don't return something that was never meant to stay. It implied history, comfort, a place where it had already belonged. That was the moment my body understood what my mind was still resisting. Part 6. Rearranging the past. That night, memories reorganized themselves against my will. Late evenings, new playlists, smiles that seemed to glow in a way I hadn't seen in months. It wasn't that she had disappeared from me. She had been fully present somewhere else. I lay beside her, listening to her breathe, while my understanding caught up to a truth she had already accepted. Part 7. Knowing without proof. I didn't need messages. I didn't need screenshots or dramatic discoveries. My chest already knew. Betrayal doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it sits quietly in your hallway, wearing someone else's coat, waiting for you to stop lying to yourself. Part 8. The Question. The next morning I asked, "Are you seeing someone?" The silence that followed was precise, calculated, heavy. Then came tears, explanations, carefully chosen words. Loneliness, feeling unseen, distance. I listened, stunned by how softly destruction can be delivered. None of her reasons erased the fact that she had made choices while pretending nothing was wrong. Part 9. Excuses that didn't fit. "It's not what it looks like," she said, then stopped because it was exactly what it looked like. "I was lonely," she tried next. "You've been distant." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because the audacity of it made my chest ache. I had been there, every day, holding the structure together while she quietly burned the inside. It didn't mean anything, she said, voice shaking. But I had seen the tenderness she no longer gave me. Meaning was everywhere. Part 10. Anger. Anger arrived slowly, like pressure building behind glass. I felt it in my jaw, in my hands, in the way my heart refused to slow down. I wanted to break something just to make the pain visible. Instead, I asked questions, practical questions, as if betrayal were a problem to be solved. How long? Who? Where? Every answer landed hard. Months. A coworker. It just happened. Nothing just happens for months. Part 11. Grief after anger came grief, deep and heavy. I wasn't just losing her. I was losing the version of our life I had believed in. I mourned habits, reflexes, the assumption that I was chosen. That night, listening to her cry from the other side of the room, something inside me let go. I didn't feel hatred. I felt detachment, like a rope quietly snapping. Part 12. The mirror stage. My mind turned inward and cruel. It replayed memories and edited them mercilessly. Parties, trips, laughter. I searched my reflection for the flaw that made her step outside our marriage. Then another thought arrived. Calmer, darker. Even if I was imperfect, she still chose to lie. You can improve yourself endlessly and still never earn honesty from the wrong person. Part 13. The attempt at repair. She offered therapy, transparency, promises. I wanted to believe her. Love doesn't shut off on command. It lingers. But trust didn't return. Every vibration of her phone tightened something in my chest. I became alert, suspicious, exhausted. The affair didn't just break trust. It reshaped who I was inside the relationship. Part 14. Decision. One evening, I stood in the kitchen, staring at two mugs drying side by side. Hers, mine. Simple, ordinary. I understood then that staying meant rebuilding on a foundation already cracked. Leaving would hurt, but it would be honest pain. When I told her I was done, my voice shook. She begged. She promised again. Promises always come after consequences. Part 15. The space between words. After the decision, there was no explosion, just distance. We spoke carefully, like strangers sharing borrowed space. I realized how much effort it takes to remain polite with someone who has already broken you. Love hadn't ended dramatically. It had simply stopped reaching across the space between us. Part 16. Packing a life packing revealed strange truths. Some objects felt poisoned by memory. Others still felt like mine. Separation wasn't about things. It was about choosing what parts of myself I was willing to carry forward. Part 17. The first night alone. The first night alone was brutal. Silence pressed in from every direction. I missed her in reflexes, not in truth. Pain and relief existed together, and for the first time, that contradiction felt honest. Part 18. What remains with time, pain softened into clarity. Betrayal taught me something simple and sharp. Closure doesn't come from answers. It comes from choosing yourself when someone else didn't. The quiet returned, but this time I listened.